What happens if we just go back to basics and just use a standard plastering trowel? Is it going to be worth it? And are we going to get any different results? Let's find out in today's video, and let's find out if we need any of these other tools here. So these are the tools I'll generally use. Got obviously the Hawk, my carbon steel trowel, got the Plastering Flex, Super Flex Black Edition, and the Speed Skim. So the first stage, we're applying plaster. We don't need anything else but your standard trowel. This is a Nela premium carbon steel trowel. We'll talk about that in a bit. And a Hawk. That is literally all you need. No flexes, no spatulas. You need something stiff that's going to hold its own weight and it's going to be able to put plaster on the wall with. So let's start. Top left. Our job here is to get the wall flat, that is it. Nothing else, so no matter what tools we're using, our main aim when we're plastering is to make sure we're getting this wall dead flat. That was our main purpose. So, let's put the joints. Stage one is applying the plaster. We're not going to go mad into it. We're going to get the plaster on the wall and then go through the stages of plastering. I'm going to talk about what tools I would usually use, and then relate to it of just using this one. So we're going to do two walls at the same time. We're going to compare it side by side, see what results we get at the end. This is when I'd use the Speed Skim. This time, right now, flattening the plaster. So we're going to do two comparisons. Going to flatten it with the Speed Skim on this wall and hand flatten it on this one to see the difference. But let's see. So that wall Speed Skim took no time at all. Let's hand trowel this one. Wall is pretty damn flat in terms of flatness. This one, even when flattened, you can actually see a few ripples there. It was rushed, I must admit. But on the whole, the Speed Skim is a flat wall in my opinion. So we can put that as a pass for the Speed Skim. 1-0 there. Now we're going to apply a second coat of plaster. I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to get the second coat of plaster on. And then we're going to go into the later stages of plastering and what we do next. Second coat's on. Now we're going to do the same thing. Flatten with the Speed Skim on this wall, hand flatten on that one. The variation wall here next to me is going to be the one we only use one trowel for. We're not going to use anything else. So let's quickly Speed Skim. Go both ways. Flattened. Now we're going to go on this wall. So now, leading on nicely, we are going into the first official trowel. So this is where we've closed in the plaster, we've kind of flattened the first and second coat. Now this is when we start getting the official flattens in. Now again, no Flexi Trowels at this point. Here's what I need to say: if anyone is using a Flexi Trowel this earlier on, then throw it in the bin, because it's going to cause damage. You've seen, even with a speed skin, which is quite a thick material, it's leaving a bit of undulation. You need something stiff like this. Again, we are going to talk about this trowel in a bit. We're going to talk about why these trowels are so important. But your base trowel, which is anything that hasn't got any flex, anything that hasn't got any movement, is all we're using at this moment in time. So we're going to be flattening it again. I'm going to flatten this wall now. Applied 2 coats of plaster to both walls. We've flattened one with a speed skin, we've flattened one manual, and then we've gone over both walls with a trowel, being the first trowel. Now, let's look at what would happen if we were to start moving to Flexi Trowels. Now again, there's no way at this point you should be using anything flexible on your plaster, because it's still got a lot of play to it, it's still quite wet, and there's still a lot of flattening to do. Let's just say, for argument's sake, I decide to use a Flexi Trowel on this wall right now. I'm going to get the light sideways onto the wall so we can see everything. And that's what we're looking at. Let's see what happens if we use a Flexi Trowel on that similar spot. Pressure. There, I've got ripples that are showing through, got ripples there. It feels a lot nicer to use the Flexi Trowel. It feels a hell of a lot nicer, but it's quite fatal to be using a Flexi Trowel early on in the game, because it's not going to take the lines out, it's not going to take the ripples out, it's just going to follow. So what happens with a Flexi Trowel, the reason it feels so good when you're using it is because it literally just travels over the ridges rather than pushing through them. So this base trowel will push through and it'll flatten. That's why it feels harsh on the joints, because there's no give. Where this will follow. So I've got a big bump in the middle there that's not been flattened out. Right there, travels over. Where above, it's completely took it out. That is the harsh reality of using a Flexi Trowel compared to one of these. Okay, so now is when you can probably start using a Flexi Trowel. Again, I won't be using it yet, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But the plaster is getting to a point now where it's kind of firm. But I still believe at this point that the plaster has play. If you rub your finger across, it leaves a bit of an indentation. It says to me, the plaster has still got play. Now a lot of people say at this point you can start using a Flexi. Now the problem is, you've just seen you can move the plaster. So I'm going to use a Flexi on this wall and a normal one on that. And I'm going to complete the process now with a Flexi on this and the standard carbon steel trowel on this wall here. And we're going to compare, putting the light side on, we're going to see exactly what's happened. I've never done this before. We're coming to the final stages of plastering. So we're going to start wrapping it up. Let's see what happens. The thing is, with using the Flexi Trowels, it's so much nicer on the joints. It feels like there's no pressure, there's no pull. So I can understand why people love using them, and be honest, using this compared to the carbon feels a lot nicer. But there's a lot of damage that happens when you use this, and we'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to finish cross troweling this, and then I'm going to cross trowel that wall with a standard trowel. This way with the carbon steel is admittedly a lot tougher on the joints. There's a lot of strain. Even at this point now, the plaster's getting hard, all that pressure and all that steel is pushing up. So this is where the big problem with all using one steel trowel like this, which is a base trowel, is a lot of aggro on your joints. So Flexi Trowels, there's a lot more give. The real idea crux here is to know when to use the tools at the right times, and know when you can and know when you can't use them. So the wet trowel is the only time I can guarantee that you could be using a Flexi Trowel, because by that point the plaster is taking up and there's not much movement. You're literally just polishing the wall. So that's what we're going to go through now. We're going to do the final polish. Flexi Trowel towards the end, and this wall all the way through has been with a carbon steel. So let's see how they both fared out, let's see what the results look like. So that's it. If anything, the carbon steel trowel wall was flatter, which means, in theory, is a Flexi Trowel just a con? Are we using it just because it's easy? And even worse, if you're using it too early in the game, then you're going to get so much troubles and you're going to get a lot of issues in terms of rippling, movement. So not only is a Flexi Trowel maybe made redundant, but if used too early, it's detrimental. But if you want to see the full process on plastering and when you should be using trowels at what stage, click this video where we'll show you everything you need to know from plastering, application, flattening, in terms of which flexes to use, when to use speed skim. We'll show you everything here. Click there, see you in the next one. Cheers.